more money to actually end up having an asset, right? So a combination of income and expenses is incredibly important to building assets that work for you, that basically make money for you down the road. Assets are also important because they provide truly a financial future. One of the things that these slides don't talk about with regards to your financial future, I like to think of it as generational wealth. And one of the things this slide doesn't include are single body on this call should have life insurance, even if it's a term insurance, which are dirt cheap, or if you buy a permanent insurance, which lasts you for life. Insurance products, I'm not going to get into that. All I'm telling you is that insurance products should be part of your asset building techniques. They are the foundation of building wealth because it takes time for us to build wealth. An insurance product basically says, if you don't get to live long enough to build your wealth, do you have assets and wealth to transfer to your loved ones? And that's why we call it generational wealth. Because you may not be able to use that wealth, but your kids, your grandkids will be able to. And that's why that's important to have that as a base. Building assets is certainly essential to achieving long-term financial stability and growing wealth. And the thing that is important about that is peace of mind. Because so much of how we live our lives is really worrying about money. We worry about money all the time. You know, and I'm going to be perfectly honest. In this culture, in this society, money is terribly important. There's almost nothing that you can do that is meaningful without financial resources. But they don't teach you that in school. What you get to learn is to be a consumer and to get into debt. And this is not a debt presentation. I would love to do that one, Annie, later down the road if you believe one of those presentations will be beneficial. However, it's important to understand that the more indebted you are, the less resources you have to build assets. And that's the reason you really need to eliminate debt. Literally, try to live a debt-free life. It's possible. It's hard. However, it's a way of, again, having a mindset that you prefer to pay yourself first than to pay everybody else. All right, so what is owning assets do for you? One of the things that's important, of course, is creating a buffer to handle emergencies. And basically that bullet point speaks to the fact that each and every single one of you should also have an emergency fund. I just sent my son some information. He is actually started his residency in Seattle as a doctor. And residents don't make a ton of money. They make a livable income in many ways. However, I sent him an email saying, son, whatever your income is, you need to have an emergency fund. And the emergency fund should be a fund that basically allows you to pay your bills either 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months. You decide what number of months you would like to have the emergency fund for and build it up so that when emergencies happen, you have money that you can essentially use to pay your bills. If you decide to have a 3-month fund for $3,000, an emergency happens and you need $1,000, guess what? You don't have to mess up your financial plan. You can continue doing what you're doing, paying all of your expenses, and then use your emergency fund to pay some of that. More importantly, we had COVID just a couple of years ago. And with COVID, remember, some of us could not work, but very few Americans. So I guess alone in this boat of people not having the resources. that they need. Just a small number of Americans could survive for several months just from their savings. And that's what an emergency fund will do. It will allow you to survive for several months so that you don't have to depend on the government, and you don't have to depend on others. You basically will have the resources that will tide you over a period of time. Well, certainly owning assets is part of your overall financial goals. If you don't think in terms of assets, then it's not part of your goals. And you have to build in the goal of owning assets for it to materialize for you. It just doesn't happen by accident. But if your mindset is one that doesn't believe that you can own assets, then you will never have them. But if your mindset is one that says, I own and I will have assets, all of a sudden, it begins to literally kind of manifest for you, because your brain gets oriented towards savings. It gets oriented towards using your financial resources wisely. It gets oriented towards all of these things that will allow you to, at the end of the day, say, I own this and I own that and I have this and I have that. And all of a sudden you begin to have different buckets of wealth. And what are some of the buckets of wealth that I'm referring to? Well, a savings account is a bucket of wealth. Having your emergency fund is a bucket of wealth. Having your life insurance is a bucket of wealth. Having your retirement accounts, your IRA or your 401k with your company, that's a bucket of wealth. Owning your home, that is a bucket of wealth. So I haven't even got into the other buckets of wealth that you can start, but can you begin to see and understand that you have a lot of things that you can do in between in order to start that journey of building wealth? And you don't need to start that journey by being wealthy. In fact, most people don't. You have to start your journey from where you are, no matter what. Even if you make $10,000 a year, or 20, or 30, or 40, it doesn't matter. It's how you organize the utilization of the resources that you have that is most important. Well, we want you to remember this key takeaway: assets can lead to wealth and financial. How many of you know that owning one share of Google is understood as someone that owns an asset? When you invest in the capital markets, when you buy shares of companies, you basically are purchasing assets. Why do these assets in the market? Well, they do because, you know, the idea is when you purchase that share, it was worth $10, and when you're ready to either retire or sell it, it's going to be worth $100. So you own it. The important thing is that you have to understand that you're owning. It's an asset you can sell. Now, in the capital markets, it may go from $10 to $2. However, you need to understand that even if it goes to zero and you own the share and you don't sell the share, you haven't lost anything yet. You still own the asset. So all you need to do is wait until it goes up and then sell it, right? But something as important as owning assets through the capital markets, and Kiyana is going to get into that because it really relates to our retirement plans. So when your companies have them, you use them, because guess what? That speaks to what Kiyana is going to share: asset building in a very easy way without too much complication. Here we talk about assets creating a financial foundation. Well, I just told you that one of the most important financial foundations in building assets is insurance. Insurance provides a foundation for your family. If something happens to you, your family really and truly will have the financial resources to go and do what they need to do without you. All the ladies, all the women on this call, you have your partners. Make sure your partners have life insurance. Men die much earlier than women. So you make sure that your man, your partner, has life insurance. Why? Because it is just vital for generational wealth. Okay? And again, they have life policies that are very expensive. They have life policies that are not too expensive. And between the two, there's one that you can afford. Trust me on that. I used to sell life insurance. So that would be nice if you knew what net worth was. What is net worth, right? In simple terms, net worth is basically calculating, subtracting your liabilities, money that you owe others, from your assets. And when you, for example, if you were to go and purchase a home, you usually get a loan from the bank. When you purchase a car, you usually get a loan from the bank to also pay those loans. And in order for you to get those loans, you have to have good credit. And the better the credit, you know, the better the chances of you getting a loan at a lowest interest rate. If your credit is bad, yeah, they may give you a loan, but the interest rate would be very high. But the reason net worth is important is that they calculate that in order to give you that loan. They want to make sure that at the end of the day, your assets minus your liabilities leave enough money so that you can pay them back. It's as simple as that, right? So net worth is something that you need to understand. You need to understand what your assets are, something that you own that has value. Your liabilities is something that you owe others, usually money. And guess what, guys? I'm going to throw in the venture there. Credit cards become liabilities. And when you use that credit card, but guess what? At a really, really high expense to you, that sometimes you carry your credit cards so high that you're not able to pay them. And as a result, your liability is high. If your liability is high, your asset, and your asset is not that high, you have a very low net worth. So you have to pay attention to both sides. The value of an asset minus the liability related to the asset is what we call equity. Why is equity important? It's very important in mortgage. It's very important when you own your house. Because if the value of your asset, let's say is $100,000, and you just got a mortgage for it and you own $90,000, what is your equity? $10,000. So you get a mortgage for 30 years. All of a sudden, by the time it's 10 years, you got the value. So the home that you bought for 100,000, 10 years, 1,000, and you have been paying your mortgage, so the liability will probably at that time be 50,000. So what is the equity? Your equity will be $100,000. So that's why owning your home is an important asset to have. So the quicker you can get to owning, the better for you and your family, because you are building wealth. You are building assets through home ownership. So this is the formula for knowing what your net worth is. Net worth is equal to assets minus liabilities. And want to go back, your equity is equal to value of your assets. You add all of them up minus your related liabilities, and it tells you how much equity you may have with your assets. All righty. The value of the net worth, we talk about the fact that it can be a positive net worth. That means that your assets exceed your liabilities. It could be zero or negative, meaning that your liabilities exceed your assets. And that's a situation you really, really don't want, because it's kind of like digging a hole. And you know what they say about a hole, you know, the only way you can start getting deeper into it is to stop digging. So you have to decrease the liabilities. You have to find a way to put a stop to that. You got to cut those credit cards. You got to stop making mistakes, foolish mistakes in purchasing stuff that basically you may not be able to afford, right? Some of the shiny stuff may look great, but it doesn't necessarily do anything to your bank account. If it gets your savings account to zero, it doesn't help you any. And I tell you, you're going to have a lot more peace of mind by your bank account being positive, even through your emergency fund, than actually not having any money because you have such high liabilities. The example above on the slide basically was asking you if you could calculate the net worth, and this is the way you do it. The total assets in that example was 141,000. The total liabilities 119. The net worth, the difference between the two, gives you $22,000. I hope you guys are understanding the importance of owning assets, and in this particular case, the importance of owning your home. Finding a way to owning your home. And we have ways of doing that. Even if your income is not that high, we have programs that help you with down payment assistance, etc. So there's always a way. It's a mindset. It's how you think about wealth. It's how you think about what you want to achieve. That's terribly important. And people that are wealthier, it's not that they're brighter than us, it's that they just do things differently. They pay attention to this type of stuff. So how do you change your net worth? Number of ways. You can increase your assets. That makes sense, because it's a formula, right? Net worth is equal to assets minus liability. Or you can decrease your liability. Do both. If you increase the amount of assets you have and decrease your liabilities, guess what? If your liabilities are zero, your net worth is equal to your assets. And that's important to understand. And this is the way you basically balance that formula.
Hey, Domingo. Hey, Domingo, can you hear me?
This is that you make. Buy less than you can afford. Save money.
Hey, Domingo.
Use supplier programs and use it responsibly. Pay down your debts. Explore public benefits. Claim tax credits. Shop around. Don't buy expensive stuff. Annie?
Hi, yes, sir. Yeah, I think there's been a delay on your side as far as when you speak. You kind of cut in and out.
Okay.
And then I want to let you know we were going to shift over to retirement conversation. So if you could wrap up some of your last points, and then we'll move on.
Excellent. So I think clearly that we can stop here on this slide talking about your net worth, because I think most of the important things I have shared. And the points that I wanted to make, I have already made. We were just going to go slides to speak a little bit other types of building assets and other strategies that you might have. But I think that the gist really with building assets is saving more, have little debt, as much as little debt as you possibly can, and the revenue extra that you have, put that to work for you in any of the buckets that I mentioned of building wealth. So I have Kiyana take over the retirement piece of the presentation.
All right, thank you, Domingo.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say a little bit about Kiyana before we switch over to retirement. Kiyana was a community development intern for us some years ago, and we're so proud of her. We're so happy to have her here today to talk about retirement. She'll definitely tell you more about herself. But Kiyana, you can go ahead and share your screen and introduce yourself.
Sure thing. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
We
perfect.
can.
So today we will be talking about retirement. Again, my name is Kiyana Duplantier. I am the owner of Inspiring Financial Freedom. I specialize in life insurance, tax preparation, credit repair, and I'm also a notary. I'm in the process of obtaining my financial planning master's and then becoming a certified financial planner. And I also wrote a book called The Why Behind Your Finances, which pretty much goes over the information necessary to kind of like understand the basis of finances. It comes with budgets in it, as well as just basic information that you would probably know or may not know, just to kind of like educate you a little further. So to jump right into it. So I'll be giving you guys some like information about retiring and kind of how that works, providing you the tools necessary to retire. So if you have any questions along the way, please don't hesitate to ask. So today we're going to take a look into your retirement accounts and other ways to save for, to benefit you in the future. In the early days, our parents and grandparents had pensions, which would usually take them until death. Nowadays, we don't really have pensions that are being offered as often by employers. So you're kind of responsible for your retirement plan or how you would retire and what that would consist of. So I'll be going over some ways that works and how that'll look for you. So just the hands or, you can comment in the comment section. What does retirement look like for you? Like, do you plan to travel? Do you intend on picking up another job? Starting phase 3 of life and figuring out what's next for you? Staying at home or possibly picking up a hobby? So if you don't mind, go to the chat box and kind of drop your what you idealize your retirement looking like for you. As you guys do that, I will go ahead and keep it going. Perfect. Okay. A lot of people tend to actually pick up a different job, something that they may be more interested in the long run that may not have earned them the amount of money that they wanted to in their younger days. So, or maybe just picking up a job that's honestly interesting to you in a way that, you've never thought of before. Most times during that retirement time, people are finding their phase 3 of life, which is honestly like reinventing who you are without having to worry about waking up on a daily basis to a 10 and 9 to 5 that's maintaining your lifestyle. The stages of retirement look like pre-retirement, honeymoon phase, disenchantment, reorientation and finding yourself, and then finally becoming stable in the whole process of knowing that you're now retired. Pre-retirement is when you're in the process of kind of like establishing everything in regards to your finances, making sure a lot of your debts have been taken care of, your liabilities. And then the honeymoon phase obviously is a blissful phase. Like, you're retired, you've made it this far, you've accomplished one of the things on your to-do list, which is to retire, stop working, enjoy life. And then the disenchantment phase comes for most people when it's like, wow, I'm not working anymore. Like, what's next to do? Like, I've waited, 35 or 40 years to reach this phase, and I don't know what to do. Like, I'm kind of bored with life now. And then reorientation and finding yourself comes when you're just kind of like actually kind of defining what retirement looks like for you. And then you find stability in that, which just means that you're finding focus and knowing that you're retired. Like, you found yourself and you know what you want to do for the next possibly 20 to 30 years if you decide to, or if life allows you to live for that long. Okay, so things to do before retiring. I would suggest that most people would, speaking with a financial planner or advisor, reducing your debt as best as possible, because obviously whenever you retire, you're going to be set on a fixed income. And we don't want you retiring assuming that you're going to have the same things coming in or the same amount of income coming in that you did while you were working, because you don't know how long that money, well, you'll expect it to know how long that money will last, but things still happen, stuff comes up. And the last thing that you want to be worried about is having to pay off debt. So most people pay off their cars, pay off their credit cards, pay off any personal loans that they may have obtained. And honestly, most people also attain to pay off their homes, so that that's not also a recurring debt or a recurring payment that they have to worry about. They just have to worry about those miscellaneous expenses that may come up, as life comes. Review your cash flow for the 2 years leading to retirement. I suggest this only because you get to see your spending habits. You get to know what kind of person you are when it comes to managing your money. And ideally, a lot of things happen and they come up. That's a part of life. And sometimes we have to budget for those things. Or you have to see if you have a shopping problem, and that's something that you may need to also like plan for in regards to your retirement. So just kind of like reviewing those cash flows and seeing what your spending habits are early on or right before or prior to retiring, it makes way for the ability to retire successfully and knowing what's expected. Because no one wants to retire and not expect to work and then have to go back because you've ran through your money so fast.
Hey,
And
Kiyana,
lastly, yes, ma'am.
we have a question from Lorena. She said, will you suggest that one live a month or two if they were in retirement, as if they were in retirement, to see if they have enough?
Yes, honestly, yes. So whenever creating that retirement budget, put yourself on like a fixed income. Don't account for any bonuses that you may have for the month in work. Don't account for any outside or miscellaneous funds, and then see how that works for you. And actually, like, see if you're disciplined enough to be able to work with that particular budget. Because a lot of people rely on Social Security, which nowadays isn't going to get you too far. We rely on their 401ks. And honestly, if you didn't start saving early enough, those may not even take you to 10 years. And if they do, they'll be small amounts. I work in a retirement department, so I know people are receiving maybe $100 or $200 because they saved late. And then also, I mean, if you plan with some of the resources I'll provide for you today, those may also help you in the long run to be able to like actually manage the money that may be coming in. So yes, I definitely would suggest see if you can live off of it for a month or two, or even like right now before you even get there, like picture or idealize what you would like your life to be like whenever you retire. Like, do you want to travel? If so, like make sure that you save enough to be able to accommodate the flights, the hotels, the, eating, the spending, all of that. And if you want to live a frugal life and, go backpacking in Europe, take into consideration that. You may not have to save as much money, but, you will still be enjoying your retirement. So I personally suggest, like, even if it's not something like super far off or fancy from like what you're currently living on now, take at least a month to just kind of like say, hey, I have $2,000 for the month, aside from my current bills, the bills that are paid, how can I make this last for, the rest of the month until I get paid again? Question in the chat, what percentage do you suggest if you work part-time and you're not in a matching fund with employer, or for that matter, full-time workers whereby employers don't offer retirement and or matching? Honestly, it is a personal preference in regards to kind of like what your income is, but the standard for most people is about 7% because that's what most employers tend to match. But idealize or think about, is it going to be pre-tax funds or is it going to be Roth funds? If you're utilizing your own retirement plan, such as like a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, then I personally, it's my personal opinion, I would suggest a Roth IRA because you've already been taxed on those funds whenever you receive them from your employer. There's no point in putting them into a traditional IRA just so that when you pull it out, you're taxed again. Like, the government's already taking enough of my money. Let me get this one piece of funds, tax-free at the end of the day. But I would say between 4 to 7% if you are able to afford it. Then that's honestly like the best thing. IRAs do tend to have like lower contribution amounts in traditional than 401ks do. I believe it's like 6,000 this year, 6 or 7,000. So you can look at that to max it out. I believe it's like $500 a month if you wanted to go that route, if that works best for you as well. Yes, pre-tax. So pre-tax just means that you are contributing funds before taxes are taken out. And then the way that the IRS looks at that is that whenever you decide to withdraw those funds from that account, their retirement account or that traditional IRA, they will tax you at that time. And it's typically a federal rate of 20%. And then if you have a state tax, it'll be state tax taken away from it. Depending on where you see your tax bracket being, most people pay the taxes later because they expect to be in a lower tax bracket, and that tax implication may not affect them as much. Me personally, I expect to be in a higher tax bracket, so I'd rather pay those taxes now honestly higher or lower tax bracket, I would just rather to get that out of the way now so that whenever it comes time for retirement, I don't have to worry about having to be taxed on money that I've already earned. Like you've literally already earned it and you have to backdoor and pay taxes on it. But again, seek a professional advisor. If you have any questions about that, then we can kind of like go into that if you'd like to. So I'll start with business retirement accounts just to kind of give you guys a base of what those are. A simple IRA is for small businesses that have 100 employees or fewer. You can contribute up to $13,500. If you're 50 and older, you can contribute $16,500. A STEP IRA is for small business owners with employees and self-employed persons that set aside about 25% of the compensation or $61,000, whichever is less. For a STEP IRA, you'll be eligible to start taking withdrawals at age 72, and then you won't be taxed for early withdrawal penalties if you allow it to go to 59 and a half. If you're a self-employed individual, this is honestly one of the best options for you to be able to utilize since you're an employed person receiving a 401k. That way you're still contributing in those retirement benefits. And it can also be beneficial towards your taxes. Workplace retirement accounts. So we have 401ks, which are, honestly, these are all offered through your employers, but they're just a little bit different. 401ks offered through your employer, you can contribute up to $20,500. Your employer may or may not match a certain portion of your contributions, which is called an employer match. Most of them allow you or would like for you to work for them for a certain period or a certain amount of time before you're eligible for that matching portion, which is equated to vesting. So if you work for a company for, let's say, 5 years and you meet their vesting requirement, then you'll be eligible for 100% of the match that they provided to you. 403B, offered through an employer. If you work for a tax-exempt organization, same contribution amounts of $20,500. A 457B, offered through state or government employers, can contribute up to $20,500. They typically don't have any employer matches. 401ks and 403Bs do allow for you to borrow or withdraw money from those plans based on the provisions. In regards to the hardship withdrawals, they usually follow IRS guidelines. So it would be kind of like medical expenses, purchasing a home, and a couple other reasons that they do have. And then loans are typically, they have personal loans or home loans. A lot of people utilize their retirement accounts to be able to build wealth, which Mr. Domingo was mentioning, by purchasing homes. So in the event that you don't have the cash up front to possibly buy you a home and you've been saving your retirement plan and your retirement plan allows it, then you can in fact reach out to your record keeper or record holder for your retirement plan and ask, do they allow for loans? And you could utilize some of those funds to be able to put down for the down payment or whatever it is that you may need to purchase your home. Individual IRA or individual retirement accounts. This is what I was mentioning earlier. These are retirement plans or retirement accounts that you can contribute on your own. The contribution limit actually is $6,000 for anyone under 50 and $7,000 for anybody over 50. Again, a Roth or an IRA, is considered what's called pre-tax funds or tax deductible funds, which again is just meaning that there aren't any taxes paid on them. While a Roth IRA, unlike an IRA, you pay taxes on the amount prior to contributing those funds, and it's considered a tax-free growth account. The earnings on the account can be taxed if you don't have the account 5 years before withdrawing it. That's the only caveat to the Roth IRA, is that you have to have the account for at least 5 years before you start withdrawing those funds so that the earnings plus the contributions are considered tax-free income. And an HSA is considered a health savings account. So if you know that, people have all types of health problems once they get older. So if, you have a history of health problems in your family, a HSA is honestly a good way to plan for those things. It's kind of considered like an IRA, but it's utilized mainly for health expenses. So in the event that you have, like, we're going to say high blood pressure, and you need to have, high blood pressure medicine throughout your life, your employer may offer this as well, and they may allow you to also contribute to this type of an account. As long as it's used for medical expenses, it's considered tax-free. So you can save up to $3,600 annually if you're an individual, and $7,200 if you have a family. Again, these funds are contributed as tax-free income, and as long as it is used for medical expenses, you do not pay any taxes on it. Honestly, it's a lifesaver for me. Even like now, if you go to the doctor and there's a copay, you can utilize it for, your copay, because it's a medical expense. That way you don't have to come out of pocket with copay expenses or anything of that nature. Social Security, as I mentioned earlier, this may or may not be around when half of us retire, but it is an option for most people. You can start receiving at age 62. 70 is considered full retirement age, but just to let you guys know that you are capped at a certain amount to be able to be eligible for Social Security. So there's a certain amount of funds, I don't know the exact amount at the moment, that you are able to earn while on Social Security. In the event that you exceed that amount, they start reducing your Social Security income by $1 for every $5 that you earn. So if you tend to have like maybe a side hustle or anything of that nature, they do account for that income. So you do want to make sure you don't go through that amount, or go over that amount. And I heard Mr. Domingo mention life insurance. And honestly, this is one of my favorite things because a lot of people in our community fail to realize that it is such an important resource. If you have kids, if you have siblings, if you have, family, nieces or nephews, life insurance honestly is one of the best investments to ever get for yourself, honestly. Because think about it in a way as if you have a family and you're one of the breadwinners and you pass away. That income is no longer with your family. They are now going to have to figure out how to replace your income. And life insurance is your answer. They don't have to worry about paying for burial or funeral expenses. They don't have to worry about where the next meal is going to come from, because you covered them by purchasing a life insurance policy. This particular policy that I'm mentioning right now is the Index Universal Life Insurance Policy. It is honestly, for me personally, a good retirement resource, as well as a good asset to have, because it does work in regards to the stock market. It has a zero floor, so it protects you against any losses, but it does allow for you to gain interest based on how the market is performing. And it obviously is capped. There's a floor, there's a cap. So it's capped at, I believe, about 6.2%, depending on what company that you go with. So depending on how that flows, you could earn about 6.2% on the market on your life insurance policy. Similar to an IRA, a Roth IRA, the tax treatment without limits, no high income limitations, and no max contributions. So the Roth IRA, obviously, if you make a certain amount of money, then you're not eligible to contribute to that plan, and it maxes you at the $6,000, while Index Universal Life Policy does not. And also, it still provides you that death benefit. And also, if you want to borrow or take money out of that account, you can also borrow against those policies.
Okay. Kiyana, yes. I have you see that question?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, great.
So yes, term policy pretty much is just meaning that for 30 years, you'll be covered. So they range in, I believe, 10, 20, and 30 years. 30 is the longest that a term policy will go for, though. So as long as you're alive, well, and kicking, or if you happen to have a policy that goes for 30 years and you happen to pass away in the 25th year, for whatever value your policy is, that will be paid out to your to your family or your beneficiaries, whoever you have. Again, term is only for a certain amount of period between 10 to 30 years. While whole life policy is more of a permanent policy and it does not expire. It doesn't expire as long as you pay your premiums on it. So the only difference is that one expires after a certain time frame and then one doesn't expire. The younger, so if you have children, honestly, a policy to get on them while they are young is honestly the best because they're cheaper. They are literally pennies on a dollar. They're definitely worth it. We buy them Christmas gifts. We buy them birthday gifts. Buy them a life insurance policy. I guarantee you it will be worth it. If you don't die, you will not get some of your money back because it just doesn't work like that. Yes, you can also convert a term policy to a permanent policy as long as your health rating, or not as long as, but your health rating will be preserved. So that just means that if you have a term policy for 30 years, and let's just say in the 10th year, you're like, hey, I want to get a whole life policy because I feel like I'm living for another 15 years, then you can convert a portion of your term policy into a whole life policy, but do consider that the whole life policy will increase, or you will have a higher possibly payment, because it is a whole life policy. Those are typically more expensive than term policies because they last for a longer period of time. So though you can convert a portion of them, just think that the value that you're going to receive for it will be more expensive. What would I recommend for seniors? Is honestly a term policy for 30 years. If because it is going to be cheaper, you may get more of a death benefit out of it. If you get a whole life policy at this age, or if you're like 60 or 70, it'll be very expensive, or it'll be more expensive. So if you can budget for it, then I would personally recommend a whole life policy. But if you know that you're tight on money, or that you don't really have like $100 or so to put into that policy, then I would recommend a term policy, at least that you are covered. Okie dokie. The next thing I'm going to mention is what's called FIRE. So I think it's something that the millennials, Gen Xers are kind of like hip to. And pretty much what that is defined by frugality and extreme savings and investing. By saving up to 70% of your annual income, FIRE retirement proponents aim to retire early and live off small withdrawals from their accumulated funds. So this is kind of like your building up your nuts now to be able to have them for wintertime when it gets really cold. So if you're one of those people who can live in frugality, then by all means, this may work for you. I'm not one of those people. I enjoy my life right now. So I am not definitely a FIRE girl. I do intend to save as much as I can and retire at some point, just not at this moment. And then we do have a question. What would you suggest for someone that works for themselves? In regards to life insurance, honestly, any policy. You could get a whole life, you could get a term, or you could get an IUL. They work best, honestly, in any way, shape, or form.
No, not actually, not in reference to life insurance. I got life insurance, so that's not a problem, but I'm thinking more so of the savings. So since I'm working for myself, how it's very, very difficult to be able to save money and all those types of things. I know that later in life, of course, business will be in a better place, but it's still not, I'm working and I can put in my IRA and, I'm doing, what's the best method for that, of thinking of what can I do right now monthly outside of the life insurance to have a cushion when I say, okay, I'm passing this business over to my son, now I'm going to live for myself. So what could I be doing now as far as, savings? It could be an RA, whatever, you named a lot of them. What's the best suggestion for that?
Honestly, if you don't have like a lot of funds to just be able to put to the side, I would suggest doing like an IRA, Roth or traditional IRA, whichever would best suit your long-term goals, because the cap for those are currently $6,000. And you can speak with, say that I work for Fidelity. I'm not advertising or anything like that, but there's like financial planners that they have. So if you want to open an IRA and let them know, hey, when I retire, I want to have, set amount of funds. I'm not really risk adverse, which just means that I don't want to take too much risk in my account because I definitely need these funds. They'll be able to suggest or provide some investment options that could best benefit you in your retirement plan. So regardless of the amount that you're saving on a monthly basis or the fact that you are saving, it's honestly just kind of like putting in the money. It'll grow over time because there's a thing called compound interest, that as long as those funds are there, the interest that is earned on them compounds. So you get more money on the money that you've invested plus the interest that's already been applied. So it just continues adding in. So honestly, starting and then continuing to be able to save or continuing to contribute to that account, irregardless if you meet that $6,000 or not, the fact that you're putting the funds away will benefit you in the long run. Does that answer your question? Okay, perfect. And these are just some additional retirement solutions. Rental real estate. So if you're into buying property or if you have property, having that rental income coming in or having some type of passive income coming in will also benefit you in the long run because you don't have to work for it, guaranteed to come to you. Having a taxable brokerage account, pretty much that's like an investment account that you can put money into. There's no limit or no certain amount that you can put into, but it is meant for you to be able to utilize in regards to earning or best, investing your money for the benefit of returns. And then a tax deferred annuity, it allows for you to reduce your taxable income by contributing pre-tax funds to an annuity premium. And so after a while, you'll be able to receive funds on those annuities. So you'll be getting paid out for the money that you've invested into that account. And so just to kind of like follow up, planning for retirement is honestly your responsibility. You have to take that step to say, hey, I'm going to start, whether it be right now or tomorrow. You have to start, because if you don't, money's not going to fall out of the air whenever you decide that you no longer want to work. So you have to take the initiative and put forth, your best foot, and know that you are set a plan in place to be able to know, like, hey, I want to have close to X amount of dollars saved. How can I achieve that? So that's where working with possibly a financial advisor or a financial planner, or an investment advisor to help you with those type of goals, to let you know or to see how you can best achieve them. Social Security benefits may not ensure a comfortable lifestyle, again, because they do require that you only are eligible or allowed to make a certain amount. So if you make over that amount, they reduce your Social Security benefits, which again hinders you in the long run because you're not receiving as much money as you potentially could. And then with our retirement plan, you can face a future of financial uncertainties and hardships. Like I said, we work for 40 years, 30 years, putting in time for ourselves or other people. And the last thing that you want to do upon your time of retirement is to be stuck or to be unhappy. Like, you've put in this time, you are granted, the opportunity to reward yourself. So look at it that way, that you are very much worthy of everything that you're getting ready to provide yourself in this phase 3 of life. Here's my contact information. I believe Annie will be sending out the PowerPoint for you guys to have. My information is on there. So if you have any questions about anything that I presented, don't hesitate to call or email me or follow me on social media. Thank you. Any questions? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Kiyana. We appreciate you. That was very informative. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to put it in chat. If you want to ask both Kiyana and Domingo a question, we'll give a few minutes for you to do that.
Thank you.
I see one of Domingo's comments regarding longevity, that it really depends on what you want to do, and that we tend to live a little bit longer than what we think we're going to retire at. So that's a lot of stuff to take into consideration. It's always helpful, but then you feel sad. You're like, oh no, I'm not prepared. But it's very helpful to have you all on.
No, just get the cookies out of them.
Ms. Wise, you have a question?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
And one of the things I think, I want to mention, if you have children that are working or in the workplace at some point, 17, 18, 19, if their employer offers that opportunity, even if they contribute 1%, acknowledging or teaching them about the fact that retirement is a long-term process will honestly set those great financial expectations for them in the long run. So each employer that they may go to, maybe they'll be more knowledgeable about the fact that, oh yeah, I do want to retire. Because at my age, I'm 27, a lot of my friends are like, what's that? Like, what do you mean? I'm like, hey, when you broke and I'm living wealthy, I don't want to hear nothing. So it's honestly, and it's something that a lot of us in our community don't talk about, because our parents didn't have it, our grandparents didn't have it, and we don't want to continue like the process of not having it or not knowing or saying we don't know. So I'm glad that you all were here to be able to receive this information and possibly be able to share it with, a loved one or family member, so that they'll also be knowledgeable.
And I would like to go ahead and follow up with Kiyana's comment regarding if you have kids that are working, and even, no matter how young they are, they're earning income, they are able to contribute to their plans. There are two aspects to contributing to a retirement plan that Kiyana alluded to. One is interest accrued accounts. You earn interest on that money. And the second one that's the most important is compound interest. So your account grows. So really and truly, Ms. Wise, it doesn't matter what you start with. time, that will continue to grow for you. That money really compounds over time. And that's why really it's important to start, no matter at what level.
So that's a good point. So now my daughter's kind of working, she's working for a nonprofit. So she signed up and everything. So proud of her. She's 28. She's, match her jobs matching. I mean, it was great. I was like, yay. I had talked to her about it, but not really as much as I was excited when she did do it. But I push entrepreneurship for my children. So my middle son, it's probably not going to be, he's 23. He's probably not going to be going to work for anyone. My 11-year-old is definitely not going to be going to work for anyone. So it's just like at this point. So what I say, what I have done for the 11-year-old, because he has income coming in now, I do some small investments for him to start saving money now. But I need to think about, some of these IRAs and some of these different things, another method outside of the investments. I don't know.
Is your 11-year-old an employee of your company?
Say it again.
Is your 11-year-old an employee of your business?
He's an 11-year-old, cannot be an employee of any business.
Yes.
Yes. You're an entrepreneur, right?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. I understand. I understand what you're saying.
No,
I understand what you're saying on paper, but as far as the labor laws, and I've been investigated, so let's be clear. As far as the labor laws, a child that is under 18 cannot work for my company. Now it's something everybody, oh no, you can do this, you could, no. I was investigated. I was told on that my son was working for my company, and he was not. His company is separate from my company. His DBA is separate, for everything is separate. Bank accounts, everything is separate. And that's the only thing that saved me when they did investigate me. I cannot pay him. I know that the government says that you can, but since I live in the state of Texas, you have to go by the state of Texas. And the state of Texas says that you cannot do that.
Yeah, Ms. Weiss, he cannot work full time. He can certainly work part time for you as far as the Texas regulations, which I'm very familiar with as well. But nevertheless, the one point I want to make is your comment regarding your other kids being entrepreneurs. I didn't spend enough time talking about entrepreneurship because owning your own business is an asset. Again, it goes back to that point. It's an asset that you can down the road sell to somebody else, and you can also grow it over time. So that is really an incredible strategy to have. And everybody should have a DBA or LLC on the side to grow their own little business, even if somebody else.
Yeah. It's the best thing we got. I mean, we wouldn't be where we are right now without it. It was a side gig and now it's full time. And I'm like, I spent too much time working for other people. I can't even believe I did it for as long as I did.
Excellent. Yeah.
But he has a goal. We are saving money. All his money really just going to him going to college. But like I said, I did start the investments this year. We're not investing a lot every month, but it's like $100. But we've already, raised some money. That was him back there. He's doing cookies. He's making cookies right now. But but it's, it's just that thought of, I want to know what else I can do, Yeah. And we won't be selling our business.
Just a reminder that it's never the amount that's like super critical in the beginning. It's honestly just kind of like building that habit of doing it, so that whenever you do get paid or whenever it is time to, set up your budget or what have you, like that's something that's included because you're building that habit within yourself and your kids so that it becomes like second nature. Like paying a bill, you're paying yourself, like you're investing in yourself. So as long as you have that idea or that mentality, whenever you get those extra funds, it'll be easy to be like, hey, I got an extra $2,000. Let me just put that over there. It honestly, it comes second nature whenever you have those extra funds to not think so out of the world about it. You're like, okay, I have responsibilities. I know what I want in the long term. And then honestly, it's easy at that point.
It's true, because when we started investing, it was a smaller amount, and I was like, okay, try to take a risk instead of 50, let's do 100, you know, and as long as it's there, I don't mind it, you know. So we'll see where it takes us.
Good deal. All right. That was a nice end to everything. I like that conversation that we had. So once again, thank you, Domingo. Thank you, Kiyana. We appreciate your time and your expertise and sharing with us. Before we leave today, we're going to let Marianne make a few announcements, and then we'll end everything. Thank you.
All right, guys. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, thank you.